matapang, Ginebra San Miguel.
Yan ang tibay ng samahang. Hindi kayang palitan.
We've seen these ads and videos pop up online or on our TV screens on a regular basis, enticing us to have a good time with friends and drink our problems away. However, did you know that alcohol can also teach us something about intellectual property law? Let's start with something simple. Some of you may have probably had a drink of this before, a bottle of San Miguel Pale Pilsen beer. Vast majority of us probably think that the name of the beer is something that only San Miguel has ever come up with. But have you seen this? This similarity is actually the basis of the case of Asia Brewery versus Court of Appeals. In this case, San Miguel Corporation filed a complaint against Asia Brewery for the supposed infringement of their trademark and unfair competition, due to the name of Asia Brewery's beer Pale Pilsen being similar and competing against San Miguel Corporation's San Miguel Pale Pilsen. The trial court dismissed the case. However, on appeal, the Court of Appeals reversed the decision of the trial court, enjoining ABI from selling beer Pale Pilsen. So the issue here is whether or not ABI infringed SMC's trademark of San Miguel Pale Pilsen with rectangular hops and malt design. One of the main cruxes of this case is the fact that both have a similar name of Pale Pilsen in their name. But the Supreme Court ruled that the words pale and Pilsen are both just generic descriptive words. Pale refers to the color of the brewed beer itself, being pale in color, while Pilsen is a light Bohemian beer with strong hops flavor that originated in the city of Pilsen in Czechoslovakia and became famous in the Middle Ages. Thus, the Supreme Court also held that Pilsen is a primarily geographically descriptive word and thus non-registerable and not appropriable by any beer manufacturer. So now that we have an example of a generic term or mark, what is it, and are there other marks to look out for when a mark is being registered? To find out, let us tackle the case of Ginebra San Miguel versus Director of the Bureau of Trademarks. In this case, Ginebra San Miguel Incorporated filed a trademark application for the word mark Ginebra covering gin products. GSMI claims that Ginebra is Spanish for gin and has been in use since 1834 as a dominant feature of its gin trademarks, and providing data from marketing and consumer surveys that 90% of gin drinkers associate Ginebra with GSMI. The Bureau of Trademarks issued a final rejection on the ground that Ginebra is a generic term. Tanduay Distillers Inc., on the other hand, sold a product named Ginebra Capitan, leading to GSMI to sue TDI for violation of their intellectual property since it imitated GSMI's designs. After trial, the RTC of Mandaluyong dismissed the complaint, ruling that Ginebra is generic and has no secondary meaning. On appeal to the Court of Appeals, however, the Court of Appeals reversed the RTC decision and enjoined TDI from using Ginebra in its product names. Thus, the issue in this case is whether or not Ginebra is a generic term. The Supreme Court ruled that no, Ginebra is not a generic term and may be registered by GSMI as a mark. The Supreme Court used the doctrine of secondary meaning, where a generic or descriptive mark may later acquire the characteristic of distinctiveness and can later be registered if it acquires a meaning different from its ordinary connotation. In this case, Ginebra may be considered a descriptive mark because it refers to a juniper berry flavored gin named Genever or Genever from the Netherlands. However, GSMI has shown compliance with Section 123.2 of the Intellectual Property Code to show secondary meaning. Under this section, these are the following requisites to apply the doctrine of secondary meaning. First, there has to be substantial use of a mark in the Philippines. And such use results in the distinctiveness of the mark insofar as the goods or the products are concerned. Proof of substantially exclusive and continuous commercial use in the Philippines for 5 years before the date the claim of distinctiveness is made is also required. Here, GSMI complied with all the requisites as it had been using Ginebra in its products since 1834, and the data provided has shown that 90% of consumers associate Ginebra with GSMI's products. Now, what are these other generic, descriptive, and geographic terms? Let's start with generic. So, generic marks or terms are those which constitute the common descriptive name of an article or substance, or the commonly used name or description of a kind of goods. So, for example, bed and breakfast, leather shoes, and as we saw in the previous case, pale pilsen. Descriptive marks or terms, on the other hand, are words which are merely descriptive of character, qualities, or composition of article, or place where it is manufactured or produced. It's considered a stronger form of trademark protection than generic terms and can give rise to acquiring distinctiveness under the doctrine of secondary meaning. Finally, geographic marks or terms, as held in Shank Properties Realty Corp. Versus St. Francis Development Corporation. A geographically descriptive term is any noun or adjective that designates geographical location and would tend to be regarded as the geographical location of origin of the goods or services. It can denote countries, regions, cities, and other locations referred to by name. Thus, if the mark is the name of the place or region from which the goods actually come from, the geographic term is used in a descriptive sense, and secondary meaning is required for protection. Now we know more about these different marks and how some of them can be registered under the doctrine of secondary meaning. Thanks for watching, and like, share, and subscribe for more videos.